Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Week 8 XFL show. We've got a lot going on here. We're watching the Masters Cup. We're getting ready for XFL. We apologize we're a couple minutes late, but we are ready to break down the Week 8 XFL slate. We know that prize pools may be getting a little smaller, but you know what? There's still plenty of money up top. And, I think the RPS subs and crew, we're sharp. So hopefully we can all work together and find some winners today. I'm, of course, joined by my guys, Bobby and Bruce, and I'm excited to talk about this Week 8 slate with them. So let me check in with the guys first. But, of course, please be sure to hit that like button. We really appreciate it as people are coming in and joining us. So anyways, I'll go over to you first. Bobby, how are you doing? How's it going? And you're in all the streets, the NBA, the MLB, the golf, the XFL. But how's your week been, your Masters, and what are you thinking of this XFL slate?
Yeah, Masters has been fun so far. If Corey Connors would have made the cut, would be looking really nice. But have quite a bit of Rom and Koepka and big $15 milli. I've got 30+% of both of them. So maybe a couple teams will end up live at the end. We'll see how some of the cheapies and some of the other mid-range guys that I have paired with them do over the weekend. So yeah, going to be a ton of stuff going on this weekend. We've got NBA winding down. We've got an early slate today, so we'll have content up for that as well. So going to be tons of sports to grind this weekend and hoping for a fun Masters finish.
Absolutely. Bruce, how are you doing? Were you in the Masters streets at all? And and what do you think about this XFL slate this weekend?
I threw a couple lineups in, but I had Rory, so yeah.
Gotcha.
Rest in peace.
Okay.
Rest in peace. Early week for me. But yeah,
there's always showdown. There's always showdown.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's what I tell myself with all my 4 and 5s of 6 kind of lineups.
Yes, and all of our guys do great showdown content, so it's always good to check that out, especially late at night when you're probably up watching TV or something. No one else is around. That's always prime showdown making hours.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, last week XFL, I had too much Cole McDonald. That wind just killed him, and every ball he threw looked like had some kind of flutter on it. So that was rough. He is indoors this week with Brandon Silvers possibly out. So might just run him back in a lineup or two. But yeah, rough week for me. Just kind of fell flat at the end last week.
Well, I was going to ask you guys that. So I've been doing better in the 2-game and showdowns than I have the 4-game slate. I know, Bobby, you've been doing well in some of the main slate. Do you have a lean on like which type of between those 3, main, 2-game and showdown, that you like the best?
I mean, I've liked the bigger ones partially just because of the prize pools to a degree.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, there's definitely like super condensed ownership on some of these short slates. So I mean, you can look at it 2 ways. You can either just sometimes just jam the best plays on these short slates just because it's XFL. There's only so many teams. Got to do what you got to do. But I thought like last week, on that 2-game slate, I thought I actually had quite a bit of leverage by playing McClellan at like sub 10% owned, and then and Teamu and Dormady just went absolutely nuclear. So I thought I had a really good start with him low owned. So I had some success on like the showdown and I think the showdown streets too in particular. There's just, you can leave a lot of money a lot of the time too, and load up on defenses and stuff like that. So I think there's been some edges on some of those smaller slates too, but definitely like the bigger slates, being able to choose from everyone. There's more guys to fade, I guess. And obviously like the bigger prize pools too.
Right, of course. Bobby, Bruce, how about you? What is your favorite so far with the XFL season?
I'm a DFS player that kind of likes more options, so I usually play like the bigger slates. I just I feel like when you do a lot of research, it kind of shines through on the bigger slates.
Sure.
I don't know. I just always felt like that. So I play more of the larger stuff, but not to say that the showdowns haven't been profitable so far. I've enjoyed playing those, and like Bobby said, leaving salary, it's a big edge a lot of the time.
Yeah, so far the showdowns have been the most profitable for me. And I've had 2 like top 10 finishes where I'm like, oh, just so close, like a 1v1, that seems so simple afterwards, but we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll keep working at it. So, anyways, we're going to go game by game, of course, and be sure to help me, if there's any injury news that the people should know about, and just, or any, lineup changes, because, things change rapidly in the XFL. Expect the unexpected and be ready to move quickly. But that's why we have all the good resources. If you're a Run Pure subscriber, we have Bobby's Playbook, which is up, our core plays, which I'll get mine up right after the show. And of course, Discord is very helpful too. So, and we drop Showdown, cores in Discord and such like that. So if you're not a Run Pure subscriber, use code Meg15, Bobby15, Bruce15, get yourself 15% off. And if you are, all the benefits that you get. So let's go game by game here. The first game we have is, let's see, we've got St. Louis. It's here. We've got a 1:00 lock about to lock. Sorry, I had my golf showdown still pulled up. I apologize, because that is locking soon. But our first game we have is I just pulled up the set. I reserved a Sunday only. I'm so sorry. I'm in shambles over here. Sorry, guys. Okay.
Good. Yep.
The one locking in an hour and 48 minutes. I'm going to my Draftkings contest page and way too many things reserved. Okay. Sorry about that. We've got Vegas at St. Louis, as you said, indoors, 1:00. That is when the main slate locks. This is one of the higher totals on the slate. And I mentioned in my article, you can get a little leverage, maybe by just game stacking one, if you like a game to shoot out like DC and Orlando did last week. So, Bobby, do you like this game as a potential shootout, or is this a game you're targeting? And if so, who do you like?
Yeah, I mean, Arlington has not been fun to try and play offensive players on. They've been involved in a lot of kind of just low-scoring games and haven't been very exciting. But I mean, there's a couple guys that have been solid for them. I mean, Sal Canella's had some decent games so far, and I feel like he's just one of those guys that's going to be due to score a touchdown at some point, just based on his volume. And previously, we've just been picking on Orlando's defense, but now their offense is good. So I kind of like an Orlando double stack with Sal Canella as a bring back, or playing Davion Smith as a running back. If you really wanted to get off the board a little bit as like a cheapie too, you could play Letty Brown and just jam in all the wide receivers and spend up at quarterback. It seems like he'll probably get 30 to 40-ish% of the carries, but if he gets a touchdown and or gets a couple of them and Orlando's trailing, could be a good game script that way. But I think what I like best is an Orlando double with Sal Canella as a bring back, and he should be really low owned. So I think that's an interesting way to go. Definitely not looking to probably play the defense as much in this one. I would consider Orlando's defense, who's looked a little bit better, but I think that game has a little bit of sneaky shootout potential.
Okay, so yeah, this is the 4:00 game. Sorry if I mix things up. This is the 4:00 game, so we're totally fine.
He was so ready.
He was so ready to talk about Orlando. Listen, Orlando was so good to us last week. Dormady was so good to us. I want to talk about Orlando too. I'm in on Dormady again this week. I like the idea with the Dormady double stack. So let's stick with this 4:00 game, Bruce, and you tell me who you like in this game. Anything, are you stacking this one up, and who you're targeting?
Yeah, that's I think I like the first game a little bit better, but Dormady looked great last week against against DC's defense, so I don't mind going back to him as well. Arlington's defense is a little bit better, and I think they're getting some guys back on defense as well. But it is at Orlando. I know home field advantage isn't that big of a deal for a team like Orlando, but it's at least there, so they should have a couple of guys there maybe. But yeah, Letty Brown is also a good value play. I don't mind that. 44% of snaps last week, and he is averaging some yards after contact, a lot more actually than Davion Smith, 3.21, which is solid for this league. There's some receiving options to look at. KD Cannon had a big long catch last week, and he's had one target, caught one, so he has 100% completion percentage.
There you go.
So I mean, can't get much better than that. Only played 23% of the snaps, but they could be working him in a little bit more. You always got to look at Rambo and Latimer on that Orlando side as well. Dan Williams has kind of worked in a little bit more too. I don't mind Dormandy here just because you can stack it up, and you can find some really cheap options to pair with him as well. So I think he's a solid play. Arlington has some cheap receivers as well, but if you look at these snap percentages, I don't think any of them got over 50%.
Yeah.
Well, one of them, Winningham, got 55%. They just rotate so much. If for some reason Victor Bolden is in, I know he's had hamstring issues.
I was going to ask specifically about him because I was looking at him in the showdown. Again, I threw in so many reserve lineups last night, and that's why I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I was going to ask about him specifically if he was supposed to play this week.
Yeah, he looks like he's in. He's questionable, so it looks like he's good.
Well, that's the kind of thing to pay attention in Discord tonight or later for the 4:00 and we'll get the full report on that. I like Bobby's idea about Dormandy double stacks. I'm trying to decide. I assume it would be Lattimore and Rambo that you're doing, Bobby, if in the double stacks mainly.
Yeah, or Dan Williams is cheap if you wanted to spend up at running back with a build like that. His volume's been pretty solid the last couple of weeks, so I think that's the way that I would probably go about that.
Yeah, and I was just saying to Bobby Bruce that I do like the Orlando double stacks. They were kind to us last week. Do you like it with obviously Lattimore and either Dan Williams or Rambo?
Yeah, it's so cheap. I mean, Latimer's been so good for us, and I see projections for him pretty low
for ownership. Okay,
yeah, so I think I saw like 20%. Yeah, something around there. So that's just really low.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes me like him even more then, because I was already kind of on that.
He's shown a little bit of rushing upside too. He's had at least 20 rushing yards in both games too.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could get a little bit done with his legs too. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting way to go, especially if he's going to be pretty low owned.
Yeah, absolutely. Where did Dormandy go to college, Bruce?
Tennessee, I believe. Okay. A couple of different stops, I think.
Okay. I was just curious because I was so surprised. Like, who is this guy? But no, he was certainly fun to roster last week with 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. Don't think you can expect them to replicate that, but definitely like that stack this week, especially if it could be lower owned. And people might gravitate to the higher total games in the XFL. And obviously there was the one shootout last week, which was the Orlando game. Again, the first game is a little higher total. So I'll jump to that game. And that's Vegas St. Louis indoors, as you mentioned. Are you targeting Bobby in the Vegas St. Louis game? Are you looking to stack that up at all? And who are you targeting? I mean, obviously you could go back to McClendon. You could go, obviously AJ McCarron's been one of the most solid quarterbacks in the XFL. Who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I mean, McCarron's definitely been the most consistent guy in the entire league. So he looks great. He's shown upside as well. So I think that he definitely looks really good. And I don't know if we've gotten inactives quite yet on this. I mean, I've been leaning that Jeff Badette's probably going to sit today.
Mm-hmm.
He's out.
He's
officially out.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, with him officially out, I think we probably want to go is Sweeting on the Vegas side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite way to play this game, and it seems like week to week, it's usually been one of Butler or Shepard getting there. It doesn't seem like both have really gotten there consistently week to week. So I think I like McCarron's skinnies with Sweeting as a run back. I think that he's probably going to be the number 1 guy this week, and he should get a lot of the targets. I mean, you could maybe see Geronimo Allison and Martavis Bryant mixed back in. I know we've wanted them to work quite a few times early in the season, have kind of given up, but they'll get a little bit of an opportunity with Badette out. Badette was the clear number 1. So main interest on the Vegas side is Sweeting. I don't have a ton of interest in the run game, especially if I feel like they're going to be trailing. I mean, Rod Smith has shown some upside and he's fairly cheap, but main interest here is going with McCarron and stacking with either Butler or Shepard, and hopefully Butler. I doubt he's going to be that low owned considering how good he's been this year. But he's expensive, and obviously takes up a lot of salary by playing Butler and McCarron together. So I like Butler, McCarron, and getting Sweeting as a little bit of a cheaper run back if I'm stacking up this game.
I like that. I like that a lot. Bruce, would you agree with kind of that stack, that run back? Any other kind of plays that you like in this game?
Yeah, I really liked the way McClendon looked last week. Even his passing, like he was throwing nice outs to the sideline, and he just looked really comfortable back there, which I didn't see coming at all. And both these quarterbacks run a little bit, so I love this game overall. I think it's going to be the best game of the weekend. One of the things to watch out for, since Badette's out, they only have 5 wide receivers, so it's going to be a very thin core here. I think Saeed Blacknall is going to be in. He's $3K, and
that would open things up.
Yeah. I think he played for Los Angeles. Maybe that was XFL, the last XFL. And man, he put up some big games. He got some NFL chances as well. So, if he's in, I like him a lot here. He's $3K and he's a big guy, and I think he can make some plays. Don't know how many snaps he's going to get, but I really like Sweeting and Sexton a little bit more, but you just never know. 3K, catch one and get there. So I like him a lot. McClendon, just to pair with him, and on the St. Louis side, McCarron is something to watch out for. I don't know if the inactives have came out on this game yet. I haven't seen anything, but he hurt his shoulder last week. He came out of the game briefly and then came back in. So, if he's out, I don't know if I want a lot of these wide receivers. They probably go with Nick Tiano at quarterback, which I don't know how that looks. I really just like Brian Hill and one of Butler and Shepard at the receiver spot.
Yeah, no. So in this game, could you see, well, 2 questions would you say Sweeting is your favorite Vegas receiver? And 2, could you see yourself kind of doing a massive game stack of this game since you like so many pieces?
Yeah, I think in between Sweeting and Sexton, they're both projected ownership is like 8%, which is crazy to me, especially with the amount of receivers they're going to go into this game with, and they're a passing team and should be playing from behind in a tough environment to play. I like Sexton just a little bit more just because of the savings, and he's looked good as well. He's caught 83% of his targets. He's going to get more targets in this game most likely. So I like Sexton just a little bit more just because of the price, and there's so many good expensive options on this slate. So where I want to spend up.
Yeah, and you guys made a point about Brian Hill too. In my article when I was doing research, early in the season, I think I quickly just was doing more one running back lineups, and then I was really trying to punt off the running back position. And I do like the Letty Brown call for savings, but if I'm not, these guys that are getting just a ton of volume, like the Abraham Smith, Brian Hill, Devion Smith too from Arlington, even though he's less efficient. And then Jaquez Patrick is getting a good bit. Those 4 seem to be getting really the most volume. But Brian Hill, his efficiency has been very good. He's getting work in the passing game too. So love the Brian Hill call if you wanted to go very heavy on this game. What's his projected ownership looking like, Bruce?
He's probably going to be the most owned.
Okay.
Yeah.
For good reason, but yeah.
Okay. There's 3 running backs you can expensive running backs you can go to on this slate, in my opinion. But I just like Hill the most.
But he will be the highest.
Yeah, it should be close, but yeah, he should be the highest.
Okay. All right, well then let's move on to our Sunday games. If you're watching, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. If you watch right after, before the slate locks, again, thank you for watching. Still hit that like button. We appreciate it. We're going to move on to the Sunday games, and the first game is tomorrow at 3:00. We've got Houston at San Antonio. I mean, San Antonio has just been rotating through quarterbacks. So I'll go to you first, Bruce. Catch us up on any transactions or things we need to pay attention to. And then is it still going to be Cole McDonald for Houston? And then who are we targeting in this game?
Yeah, I know last I looked, Silvers was not practicing fully. So I would think that's going to be McDonald again. At least it's in a dome this time where he doesn't have to worry about the wind. And he was getting hit every drop back too. So that's extremely rough. I don't know if I love him this week, but you can definitely just bounce back and hope for the good outing this week. San Antonio is probably going to start Jack Cohn at quarterback.
Okay, he is back. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah, and I really don't want any part of that, especially against this Houston defense.
Yeah,
I think Houston's going to have the top owned defense this week. So I don't really love that at all. Don't really want to play Patrick this week, even though his ownership's going to be up there, probably be 30% or so as well. Don't really want to play any of these Houston running backs either. They're kind of rotating a little bit. San Antonio's defense isn't bad. I pretty much want to stick with the Houston passing game here. You got Bird. Bird's going to show some ownership just because of his big performance with McDonald in there last week. And I don't hate going back to that. He just doesn't have much upside. They did throw a pass or two down the field, but his average depth of target is about 6 yards down the field. So just don't expect too much there. Travell Harris got 100% of the snaps last week, and he's a good contrarian option to go along with Deontay Burnett and Justin Smith. Both of those guys should see most of the snaps at wide receiver. Vasher on the San Antonio side as well. He didn't do much last week, but with Cohn back in there, maybe he could see more upside there. He's only 3,400 as well. So I don't hate that.
Who is your favorite Houston receiver? Price considered.
Yeah, I'd probably lean Travell Harris. Just because ownership's going to be half of what Bird is. He's going to be on the field most of the game as well. Targets are more down the field as well. So I don't hate playing him. He's $7K to 1,200 more than Bird. So ownership's going to be considerably lower.
We've got Mangone in chat. I do have a guy friend that calls me Megatron. I don't know that I love that. I don't want that to stick necessarily, but thank you, Mangone, for giving me a nickname. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you joining us. I have a guy friend that calls it that. I'm like, we don't need to say that in public. I don't know that that's a fun one for me, but I love a good nickname. That means that I think that means we're good friends. I like it, so that's good. All right, Bobby, who are you targeting in this game?
Yeah, I'm similar to Bruce, where I like the Houston pass game and the Houston defense the best. Jacquez Patrick should grade out as one of the better point per dollar plays at running back this week. And I was heavy on him last week, and he's earned this little bit of an increase in price tag, but Houston's had a pretty good D line. I definitely want to play the Houston defense, and Patrick's been involved in the pass game, but there's a portion of last week where they were trailing, I recall, and he wasn't the one that was getting majority of the passing snaps. So I actually think that he didn't make the playbook, but John Hillman, that's going to be one of the backup running backs for San Antonio. If you're looking you need like a complete cheapie to make your lineup work, and you expect Houston to be ahead. He could catch 5-6 balls, and if he falls into the end zone, then maybe he's on the winner. So I'm actually a little bit lower on Patrick this week, and with just how Houston's been using their running backs, it's hard to be as excited about Borghi. But at his price tag, he should be single digit owned, and Houston's a good offense, so I still think that he's in play as a contrarian option at running back, but I primarily want to go to Cedric Byrd. He's my favorite receiver on the Houston side of things. Travell Harris, obviously having quite a few snaps last week. Cole McDonald looks, solid at his price tag, sub 9K in this Houston offense, and a little bit of rushing upside looks pretty decent. And Deontay Burnett's just been my guy a lot of this season. Play of the week last week.
I was gonna say he was good to you. Was that 2 weeks ago? Yeah, very good with you.
Yeah, he's been good to me all year. So I gotta have interest in my guy. But San Antonio's defense is all right. I've usually been really excited about Houston all week, but not quite as high on them this week. And on my main team, I'll probably just take Houston's defense and potentially Cedric Byrd and move on.
Yeah, Steven in chat says like both defenses in this game. Have to agree there too. I think that's a good point. Okay, let's go over to the Sunday Night Hammer. We've got the DC Defenders that got their first loss against Orlando last week against Seattle. In Seattle, it looks like there could be some rain potentially. That's tomorrow night at 7:00. Obviously, DiNucci has, been very good, but all season to us offers a lot of rushing upside as well. But now it just feels like the target tree for Seattle. There are so many receivers that I don't know who to stack them with. So I get a little paralyzed by who to stack DiNucci with when I do play DiNucci lineups. So I'll go to you first, Bruce. First of all, if there's any transactions to consider or, any kind of different playing times that we need to consider, please let us know. But who are you liking in this game, and who do you like stacking DiNucci best with?
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's too much injury wise here. Pearson is in at wide receiver.
Okay.
I know he was limited most of the week. And he is 11-4, so that's tough to stomach, which you should see a lot of people navigate to like Juwan Green or Jordan Vesey, who are both cheap to pair with DiNucci here. This total, I think, has dropped 2 since earlier in the week, 2 points. So I think that's due to the weather, as you said. It's going to be raining. And I think winds about 15 to 16 miles an hour as well. So, that's kind of concerning to me just a little bit. I think I love Abram Smith in this game. I think that he's
especially with weather.
Yeah, it's perfect for him. And I think he's going to have a big one. Philip Lindsay is listed as the backup running back now to Darius Bradwell. He could see some snaps here. Seattle doesn't run the ball a ton, but they do pass the ball, and you could see some throws to him as well, as Bradwell's not really, much of the pass catching back there. So they also have TJ Hammond, so you do have to worry about that a little bit, but it's kind of good to see Lindsay there listed second. Seattle, like I said, Juwan Green and should see most of the ownership there, just because he's so cheap at 4,500. And I kind of like Blake Jackson a little bit. He got 98% of the snaps last week, and he's been seeing that pretty much all year. He's going to be higher owned, but he does catch the ball around the line of scrimmage, and averaging about 6 targets per game, has a couple touchdowns this year too. The big question is, whether you want to play one of these DC wide receivers. During the DC game, I saw a lot of people tilting about how bad of a play Lucky Jackson was, and but he just gets the job done. I mean, every week he's been playing well. He's averaging 6 targets per game. He's just been really good. The reason why people tilt is because DC is primarily a running team, but when good players, when you play good players, sometimes they just make plays for you. So I think he's a good wide receiver, good option in this game, especially, somehow Seattle jump ahead. They're going to have to throw the football. Same with Chris Blair, 5,200 for him. He caught a long touchdown last week.
He had a big week last week. Yeah.
And, he looked great. I think PFF graded him their best player of the week. So I think he's a good play at 5,200, especially if you stack this game up. He's cheap. Same Lucky Jackson, 7,500 seems too cheap too here, especially if you're not playing like Abram Smith. You're playing the game script that Seattle kind of jumps ahead here. I think that's a solid play. Nobody's going to play Josh Gordon this week. He's looking like 4% owned or so. I think he had a big week against them. Maybe it was week 1.
Early in the season.
Yeah.
That was his big game. Yeah.
And this is a big week for all teams here. When looking at the standings, DC's in first, Seattle's in second, right behind them, 1 game behind, and they hold the tiebreaker since they won early on, and St. Louis is also 5-2. So that North, the North Division standings are all real close, and this game could be tight. I think it will be, and I kind of like stacking it up a little bit, getting different, maybe playing a Josh Gordon or someone similar.
Right. And another thing to mention about, your decision on stacking this up, there is a Sunday slate tomorrow too. If you, decide to go overweight on some of today's games and then still want exposure to this game, maybe you stack this game up in the Sunday slate. So something to consider as well. Bobby, who are you targeting in this game? Could you see yourself stacking up? And if so, again, who are you targeting in this game?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's going to be really rainy this weekend in Seattle. So, I mean, who knows if it's actually going to be raining during the game or exactly what the weather's going to be like.
Or the winds,
yeah. So, I mean, just with the possible weather, and honestly, I like the idea of trying to stack up the games today. I mean, I don't like stacking up Houston, San Antonio. I don't think stacking up San Antonio's ever going to win you any money this year with how well they play and being a solid defense. So, I mean, that one's a cross off from a stack perspective. And I think that DC Seattle will definitely have some ownership. But if I'm stacking Seattle, I'm likely going DiNucci and going with Juwan Green and Blake Jackson for the salary savings. Ja'Cory Pearson, he's so expensive and the role hasn't been quite as good. I mean, I still think he has a really solid role and it's got a pretty high floor. So I think he definitely remains in play and should get a discounted ownership on what it's been recently. So I have more interest in the Seattle side. I do think that Philip Lindsay's kind of interesting just for the reason he's talented. We saw Ellison have some success running the ball in this offense. I think he was the first running back to have a 100-yard game before Abram Smith had his monster 3 touchdown game the other week. So, there's been some success from running backs in the Seattle offense so far this year. And I think the thing that's interesting is they just kind of threw Bradwell, when he took over, they gave him a bunch of carries and he hasn't been good. So he hasn't exactly done anything to keep his job, and Lindsay's going to be pretty expensive.
I was going to say, I was surprised they priced him up right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But that'll, I assume, keep his ownership really low.
Yeah, and the single entry 3 max stuff, I'm not going to go there, but I'm at least going to have one team in the main with 10K up top and throw a Philip Lindsay team in there. I could see him just all of a sudden them giving him 15 plus carries, and just based on his talent level for the XFL, I could see him having a big day. But that's totally more of a dart throw in the big GPP based on not having any games yet, and maybe not being familiar with the offense. But we'll see. DC side of things, I kind of like the fade on the DC side of things, especially if it's kind of grosser weather. Teamu's definitely been priced up. If you do play Teamu, I mean, Lucky Jackson's been the clear number 1. He's shown big play upside. And if weather holds up to be okay, I mean, I could see this game being a shootout, but could see it also being one of the more popular games on the slate. So my favorite play on the DC side of things is definitely Abram Smith. And I don't hate Seattle's defense at 4K. They should be pretty low owned and provide some salary savings at that position. So that's my main thought on this game. Juwan Green, he's been really involved in the red zone too at that price tag and has benefited from Gordon kind of exiting being a main part of the offense. So definitely like him as a cheap play.
So that's why, I was just going to follow up, and Bruce kind of alluded to that with Juwan Green. Would he be your favorite DiNucci stack, or would you go back to Pearson? Who, if you could only stack one with DiNucci, who would it be? Would it pay down, or would you pay up for Pearson?
There's so many other guys that I want to spend up for. I think I would just
that's a tough thing. Yeah.
I think I would probably take Green. I think I'd rank it point per dollar, Green, Jackson, and then Pearson.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing I struggle with, because I do still like playing DiNucci, but I really struggle. There's 5 or 6 receivers you could pair him with. So, but I think that that's why we talk this through, and that helps me make my decisions too. Before we get to our core plays, I kind of wanted to just talk lineup construction super quick. I mentioned in the article that, again, I was resistant to paying up for running backs, but it is shown that some of these volume running backs really are good plays. You guys just talked about Abram Smith. We talked about Brian Hill in the Saturday, playing today. Do you see yourself going to more like a high running back and then kind of 4 mid or lower price receivers, or maybe get one high price receiver? Kind of just, I'll go to you first, Bruce. What are you thinking about lineup construction for this week?
I think this week, if you look at it, there's some good cheap wide receivers, especially on the Vegas side. I keep finding myself plugging in one of these cheap Vegas receivers,
right?
Just because there's only 5 of them, and they love to throw the football. There's a chance they could be from playing from behind. So
definitely, yeah.
I keep going back to either Brian Hill or Abram Smith here. I just think one of those two guys is going to have a huge game this week. Brian Hill playing at home. There's going to be 35,000 people there. It's just perfect. And Vegas is has one of the worst rush defenses. So yeah, I love paying up this week.
Okay. Bobby, same question. What are you thinking for lineup construction this week?
Yeah, similar to Bruce, I'm likely going to need to get some kind of guy in there for salary savings, and I think a lot of cases it's going to be like Sexton or Williams as a salary savings option, or Jawan Green potentially. So that's likely the way that I'm going. I want to spend up on my running back likely as far as that goes. So I need a cheap wide receiver to make things work, and likely on most of my teams can be going Abram Smith or Brian Hill primarily at running back.
Yeah. Okay, good. Just I like talking it through with you guys before I, then set to build everything. So, and I'm sure the people watching appreciate it too. If you're watching, please be sure to hit that like button. We're going to get to these guys' plays of the day and then get out of here and finish building our lineups, because lineup block is in just about an hour and less than an hour and 20 minutes. So I will go to you first, Bobby. Who is your play of the slate? This is a 2-day slate. Who's your play of the slate?
Yeah, my guy's going to be Sal Cannella. I think we see him at single-digit ownership. I like the idea of having him as a run back with an Orlando stack. I think we're going to see, just with the better offense from Orlando, could see the game shoot out a little bit. Going to be some better QB play from the Arlington side too now, with potentially with, I think Perez is going to be taking over today. So, I think that Cannella makes a lot of sense, and, hoping that game shoots out a little bit.
Okay. I like it. Bruce, who is your play of the slate?
I'm going to stay with Brian Hill. I know he's going to be owned, but there's going to be 2 other running backs that are probably going to be in the 30s as well. So I hope you don't see it as a cop out, but I'm going to go with Brian Hill. I think he's the best play of the slate today.
Okay. And I'm going to go, I do like stacking up, McCarron, Danucci. They've kind of been my solid guys, but I'm going to go back to the guy that, did well for me on Showdown in the Saturday only slate, or the short slate last week, and go back to Dormady. I'm going to do Dormady, and Bobby mentioned it. Bruce mentioned it. I'm going to do some Dormady double stacks. I like that. So that is going to be my play of the slate. So yeah, we're just about an hour and 15 minutes away from lock. So if you have any questions, of course, throw them in the Discord. I'm going to jump over and do my core plays. Of course, check out Bobby's playbook, our core plays, the Discord. We'll get everything answered in there. We'll drop some showdown cores in for showdowns. The first showdown, I think, is only like 400 people, but the showdown tonight and tomorrow night are larger. So we'll drop some showdown cores in from there. So everybody, good luck.
Overlay too. I think we've got
we have an overlay alert.
There's like 1,400 spots left with just over an hour to go. So there might be some decent overlay in contests. So make sure to check that out. And then obviously last plug on signing up for the site. Bruce's projections are included in that, especially if you got the SaberSim optimizer. That's definitely helpful. I mean, not everyone playing XFL is going to have access to projections, and with a niche sport like this, having projections can be a huge edge.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts for you, Bruce, before we get out of here?
No, I know we have USFL starting in a couple weeks. I think it might be next week. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But
I
yeah,
say, hey, we can keep running back and keep doing
yeah.
shows for that too.
Yeah, we can throw some cores in. It'll be a good time.
Exactly.
But yeah, looking forward to this week. There's some solid games. All the totals are in the 40s. So should be a good week.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck this weekend in your XFL contest. So for Bruce, for Bobby, I'm Meg, and we will see you next time.